I suppose we probably should just dive into this thing, eh?
Yeah, we might as well. So
It's
we're
gonna
going
be
to, I think the plan is like we did with the regular calendar, if you were in on that one. We're just keeping it in the order that it was. So this will be a surprise for Andrew as we go through. I've already opened mine, but because I had to do the blog post on them. But we'll start with day number one as Andrew opens it.
and I've forgotten what's in here, so this is gonna be. I have an idea. I think I know what number one is, but
Mhm.
we'll just see if I can actually get the box open. Pull out the discount card. Oh, yeah, held its place. That's good. Got the old glass. There we go. Glass is out, and the dram. What do we have here? Scotch Malt Whisky Society 42.73 Quiet Confidence. So nice little place
Mhm.
to start. Um, Now, Evan, knowing what you know, and knowing that
Yes.
I've only got three old school blenders glasses, do I want to use this one of those glasses for this whiskey, or save it for for three of the other four coming up?
I think you can safely use one of the blender's glasses for this one.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
on the delicate side for a Lecheg.
that's what I like to hear.
Uh, so this is a 1995 Lecheg. 42.73 distillery number 42 is Tobermory for the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. This is 25 years old. So definitely starting at a little bit of a higher gear or older whiskey, at least, than we typically see in the regular calendar.
Yeah. Well, and Evan, I don't know if it's the glass, the whiskey, or my nose, or the COVID, but this is going into like Greek yogurt territory for me right off the bat.
I can
So
see where you're going with it, and it definitely has this creamy, even blueberry yogurt for me right off the nose right now, and even almost gets into Parma violets, where I'd swear it was an Isla whiskey.
I've never actually been to a place where they take raw cocoa beans and ferment them, but this is what
Mhm.
I imagine it smells like when they're fermenting cocoa beans for some,
Nice.
with absolutely no frame of reference.
Yep. Yeah, I was Jeff says Lecheg is gross, but this is very nice. Jeff, I was looking forward to your notes on this one because I saw that you were pleasantly surprised, it seemed, with your own tasting notes in the social media page, which I did a little dance over
Oh.
when I saw that.
So it must be my palate tonight and the effects of the little viruses that are multiplying in my body, but I find there's a bit of a matchup between the nose and the palate, but not a lot. And
Hmm.
this is like 100% Tobermory. There's no vestiges of Lecheg in this whatsoever.
Yeah, I think the Lecheg has been blown off with the sands of time in a lot of cases. There is a hint of rubberiness on the palate for me, and
Yeah.
the peat smoke comes through there like a bit of a creosote note even, but nothing heavy. I really like how delicate and how different this is. Like I'm sure Jeff is probably like Kurt, where you probably say Lecheg and he just gets the heebie-jeebies and goosebumps just develop on his arms. But um, you say all that and you say that this is Lecheg, and it just doesn't come off in that manner at all.
But I mean, is it Lecheg? Because like, isn't this just Tobermory from the society codes? Like, aren't they rolled together?
They are rolled together, but I'm pretty darn sure this is Lecheg.
But is it Lecheg because
And
of vintage, because of when it was put into cask and how the cask was marked, as opposed to
I
how it was made?
I don't think so. I mean that's a good question. I didn't Lecheg stop being used by the distillery until like they
Was
changed
90,
names in the 70s
but it was
from
90,
Lecheg to Tobermory.
but it was 95 when
Hmm.
Burn Stewart took over.
Hmm.
Is this pre 95?
It is 95
No.
on the dot.
So,
And we do have another 95, or we've had another 1995 Lecheg from Whiskey Agency that showed similar, less
'cause I
floral though.
remember, I remember when we were doing a tasting with that, I thought with Igor, And I thought one of the things that either he said or someone else said, it might have even been Devin Kleckner, that there are some Tobermories that were labeled Lecheg back in the 90s.
That's
even though
fair.
they're not Lecheg. So
Well,
that
Burn Stewart bought it in 93.
Well,
they would have been producing Lecheg then, because there was a Lecheg 18 in 2015.
There you go.
Yeah. Regardless of what it is, though, I think it's a really good whiskey.
I like it. Hopefully our other guests like it. It's a society whiskey that has been kicking around, and I think partly because it's black label, it's got a bit more of a price tag to it. It's a great bottling, and it's a great whiskey to kick off the Uber edition with. But on that note, number 2, should we wander on down to whiskey?
Yeah, let's do that.
Or wander on up. It's up in the top rightish corner, which sort of tore on the last box too. But what have we got here? Brave New Spirits Old Rhosdhu 26 year. Excited to try this one. This is one of the ones that Paul Dempsey's got something to do with this brand. We brought a few of these in as a favor to the importer and haven't really tried them yet. So I'm excited to give it a go. And man, whoever sealed these did a bang up job. Because I can barely get mine
leaking. Yeah.
What's that?
Yes. So this is cool stuff. And I've had some old Rhosdhu from around this era. So this is, I think, is a, what is it? It is a, is it a 94 or 95? So old Rhosdhu is from Loch Lomond Distillery, kind of like Lecheg. There's a little bit of controversy to it. In old Rhosdhu's case, it's a controversy because it used to be labeled as a single malt. However, I think in the mid 2000s, the SWA nixed that because of how it's made. So Rhosdhu Spirit from Lecheg is made by using or putting 100% malted barley, fermenting it, blah blah blah, and then running it through a column still instead of a pot still. And the SWA eventually said, no, you can't call it single malt boy doing that. So now technically this would be a single grain.
I wonder if they should call it a coffee malt.
Oh, that'd be good.
Well, that's what Nika calls theirs. Hey, Robin, welcome back. Yes, it is an intimate session. We are on number 2. We just finished Quiet Confidence, the Tobermory Lecheg from the Society, but we will wander back to it. We're now
absolutely
the Brave New Spirits Old Rhosdhu, which is a Loch Lomond, technically by Scottish standards, grain whiskey, but made from malted barley in a column still. So an unusual, and I mean, it doesn't nose like a grain.
No, it doesn't at all.
It's not thin and kind of floral and decadent.
No, there's I think if I recall correctly, and it reminds me of a distillery that you have a fondness of for indie bottlings, and that's Glen Keith, where it has this light sort of tropical note to it, some green fruit notes in there as well. Really nice creaminess typically on the palate.
Yeah, as you get to the palate, it's surprisingly malty for something that's been through a column still. Your Glen Keith note, I think, is a good call. It does have some resemblances to that. Not quite as tropical, not quite as kind of decadent as some of those Glen Keith, but there's a nice fruity, malty, surprisingly balanced and complex palate to this for something that, again, went through a grain still.
Totally. Yeah, we had a really good another really good old Rhosdhu from Cooper's Choice years ago. That was 1993. That this kind of resembles. That one was a little bit more orchard fruit driven, I would say. This one goes into some red and purple fruit notes for me.
Yeah, and it's straining into the melon territories like cantaloupe and honeydew. But yeah, quite pleasant, fun one. I don't know why, but I am moderately tempted to add a drop of water to this one for some reason, just to see what happens. In the interest of science, of course.
I'll join you.
Yeah.
So while we're doing that, on the Brave New Spirits side of things, pretty cool looking independent bottler. Hasn't been around for too long. They are one of a slew of independent bottlers that do have plans for a distillery, and their distillery's plans are for a distillery called Witchburn, which is in Campbelltown,
Oh yeah.
or will be around Campbelltown if it goes to fruition.
Opening distilleries is so hot right now.
It is, especially if
Whether
you're an indie bottler.
whether it should still be is an open question because I think there's
Yep.
too many distilleries, but time will tell. Time will bear that out.
So what do you think with water?
It takes it okay. I mean, this is a wild card. Like we threw this one into the calendar, I think without a lot of preconceptions. It had some age on it. It's a Rhosdhu bottling, which is kind of fun. It's got a nice waxiness to it.
It does.
It probably would grow on me. I think like a lot of Loch Lomond whiskeys, this is something that I find more interesting and fun than tempting to buy a bottle of, if that makes sense. It's it's kind of, it's a fun whiskey, but I don't know that I would pay money to buy it.
I can see where you're going with it. I really like this one a lot, but this is kind of hitting the two main really good areas for Loch Lomond for me. It's when they were making whiskey and nobody cared, so it's been left to age long enough like this, and then their newer stuff that's like sub 15. That's just tremendous, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the price on this, like, it's not bad. I mean, this is probably one of the better priced whiskeys in the Uber calendar. I mean, I'd happily drink it. It's fun, but yeah, I think I would struggle to shell out hard-earned money on this one. It's just, I don't know. I don't know if it needs more time. Anyway.
Could be still struggling to open up.
Or it could be the COVID and I could just be completely off my rocker. It's infected my brain. I'm not thinking clearly. There's a lot that could be happening.
Speaking of that, I'm really curious to see what people think of this one, because I had a few ideas on what I was getting into from Sean for number 3, but I hadn't tried it until I did the blog post.
Well, I'm excited. I don't even know what we have here. We have, Whiskey Sponge Glen 1988. All right, now I am excited. 33 years old. I do love me a good bottling of Glen. I was recently back at the distillery for the first time in a decade. It was kind of cool. Incidentally, there is an old hotel called I think it's called the Meldrum Arms. And it's like a golf course hotel. It has an 800 or 900-year-old bar that you can go and eat in, which in itself is crazy to think you can go and eat in an 800 to 900-year-old bar. But the Glen tasting, they have one there. It's the Glens of Geary or something like that. It's a 5-hour, several 100-pound tour. But they had a 1979 cask in their warehouse, which I spilled much of on the floor like a chump, trying to use a Valanche type that I wasn't familiar with. It's a gorgeous cask, but they did an amazing lunch as well for us in this 900-ish year old bar. Cool. Highly recommend. Yeah, but let's see what have we got here. Tell us about this one.
So cool era for Glengarry, because this is from a time where they were, pardon me, still have their own floor maltings. That's something they've introduced recently in the last couple of years.
They have indeed.
But this would have also been likely lightly peated at the time, if I remember correctly as well, since that was their profile for a long while until they ended their floor maltings usage.
This is so tropical right off the bat.
Yep. It does have a little bit of sort of musty, mushroomy notes to it, but still going tremendously tropical.
So I suspect that this is the one that Igor convinced me to bring in, even though I didn't really want it, because I think we had another Glen Geary already in store. And he's like, no,
We
no,
do
this
have two
one,
sponge Glengarries. Yeah.
oh, I think we did, because this one now appears to be out of stock. This is the 88 edition, number 68. Is that the one we're looking at here?
Yeah. With the Mona Lisa. I'll share it.
Unless he's got more of this hidden somewhere that we don't know about. This one on 886035. I'm gonna look it up.
So this I really like Jeff's notes on this one, and I think I mentioned a lot of similar things on my own tasting notes, where this one is so delicate. It's like it's almost falling apart in front of my eyes, or in front of my nose and palate as I'm tasting it. But it's such a gorgeous whiskey at the same time.
I have to say too, I absolutely love the label on this one.
Yeah, the Mona Sponge.
Mona Sponge, yeah. And you know, sometimes I just cut and paste their descriptions from Sponge of their products.
Oh.
There are times like this one where it's worth just going to the, you can read them on our site, going to the description and reading it, because it's got allusions to Dan Brown, which amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That must be Angus's, all Angus's writing, eh?
Oh, I suspect so. Yeah. I mean, I think
Such a good writer.
Side of the business that he lives for, that he loves.
Yeah.
The greeting people and hosting tastings bit probably less so, but yeah, they're very witty, they're funny. I love the humor behind them. And I'm still on the nose on this Glengarry. I haven't even tasted it yet.
Yeah, there's a really good like apple and pear Jolly Rancher note coming out there right now for me. It's so waxy as well.
It's like barrel aged, like tropical fruit flavored cleaning solution. It's like someone's matured cleaning agents for like in wood. There's this medicinal note to it that I love. That peat that you talk about, Evan, is there. It's very faint, the ashy side of things. Yeah, that's a cool bottle. It tastes old school. Like that's an old school feel and nose to it.
Robin says, Robin and Shannon say love it. Tropical furniture polish. Totally agree.
Aged.
Yeah, this is just
tropical furniture polish.
That's right. Yeah, if it was an SMWS bottle, that might be the name.
Yeah. You allow the rough edges to soften out, and you layer on some nice delicate layers of fruit. Part of me regrets not owning a bottle of that, but one cannot do everything. So
it's whiskey wise though, it's like you're trying to you've pressed flowers between the pages of a book, and then you've left it there for 50 years. And you're opening it and you're trying to like pull the flowers out by the stem and trying to keep it all together. Like it's just, you have to drink it now. It's not going to last an hour in the glass, I don't think.
Gorgeous stuff. I wouldn't dare add a drop of water to that. I don't think I could take it. That's a fun dram. All right, let's pop number 4. Let's see what's behind door number 4.
Sounds good.
Where are we here? You'd think I would have figured this out since we just did the other one, which had the exact same ordering.
That was like an hour ago, man.
I think we almost have to like tell people to pre-cut your windows so that they open more smoothly.
That's right.
I do appreciate that the box has got a bit of sturdiness to it. Oh, damn. This one is going to be a heavyweight for sure.
Yeah. Jeff is nodding his head.
I was excited. Evan was talking about this earlier today.
Yeah.
Completely forgot we put this in the calendar. The Boutique 10th birthday Millstone, 25-year-old batch 5. This is probably the best Millstone bottling I've ever had. I know our good friends Greg and Yarka would beg to differ. They do have a gorgeous 25-year-old Millstone cask in store that we have right now, but I think this one's even better. absolutely a stunner. Sherry bomb, old school. What can we say? Patrick Van Zwiedem, the label on the boutique, he says it all. He's the Willy Wonka
Yeah.
of distillers.
Yeah,
He
that's a fantastic label. I'll share that actually. Um, but yeah, I agree with you. Like, I love Millstone, and I love how very much Willy Wonka-esque Patrick seems to be in oh, I get to run a distillery. Well, let's see what I can do, kind of thing. Like there's no, oh, I've been doing this for, or my family has been doing this for 200 years, so I have to do it the same way. Um, he and his fathers were the sort of the creation behind the single malt side of things. They do rye, they do gin, they do the Jennifer, and they do great stuff all overall. But their older single malt is always something fantastic. It tends to be so much richer and thicker than this. Like this is rich, but it's also nimble, which is crazy. It's like this. It just dances on the palate, which is it shouldn't, considering how sherry it is.
Yeah. Well, so I have a lot of things to say about that, but before I forget, if Patrick is Willy Wonka, does that make Greg and Yarka Oompa Loompas? Is that
Why not? Absolutely.
I'm gonna ask Yarka that next time I see her.
That's right.
Jeff, your comment about stacking it up against other 25-year-olds, like who are we kidding? Macallan 25 would not stand up against this.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Jeff, that's not really fair to Macallan.
I mean, in Macallan's defense, like I know we did a tasting with an 18-year-old sherry bottling about 2 years ago now, I think, and I was shocked at how good it was. When the 12 sherry casket came back, I was surprised at how good it was, given how little respect I've had going for the brand for quite some time now. But even knowing how good the 25 was at its best, it's not this.
Yeah. No, this is deep and bold sherry, but there's still like spirit character coming through. It's not just this one-dimensional sherry bomb. It's got a lot of facets to it. I swear there's still orchard fruit coming in through there, which is just nuts.
But you get to the palate and it's like PX sherry with like a table of walnuts, cheese, figs. It's so soft, so approachable. I mean, for people that are hunting like old school sherry bombs, this is about as old school as you can get. And I think the reason for it is, I remember Patrick telling me the story about how back when he came up with the idea of making whiskey in the 90s, he was trying to source the same sherry seasoned barrels that a lot of the industry relies on today, and he couldn't get them. But he accidentally stumbled upon like maturation casks. And so he's got a supply, and he's continued to have access to a supply of sherry maturation casks. And this is the result of it. This is another, I think, 1996 distillation, matured in one of those old school. And that's why it's such a light touch, because it didn't just house sherry for months, it housed sherry for years. And that's why it's got such a light touch on the whiskey.
Yeah, along the lines of what you're talking about, I remember meeting him for the first time, and I think Kurt and I were chatting with him before he was doing a tasting at the store a couple of years ago, and all of a sudden he just got so excited. He's like, "Oh, take a look at this!" And he shows us, I think, on his phone, just a bunch of casks, and he said, "This is my most recent purchase," and he was geeking out about getting some ex Solera casks, where it was like casks that were actually used in a Solera at a bodega to hold sherry for probably between 50 and 100 years. And that's the kind of thing that he geeks out about, which is really, really cool.
Sorry, just trying to get the Walter dog back downstairs. I'm not sure where he's at, and Jen's not home yet. And he's figured out how to open garbage cans, which is kind of a problem. So
that is a problem.
It is a problem.
Stunning whiskey, and just so well put together. Incredibly lively, still at 25. There's just nothing out of place about this.
No flaws, nice balance, not over the top. I mean, if you want big, thick, dumpy, goopy, old school sherry, this is it. You'd be hard pressed to do better than that. All right, door number 5. Let's see what's there. Because I don't remember. All right. Behind door number 5, we've got Port Askaig 28 year.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a fun one. In the so in the regular whiskey calendar, we talked about Barry's perspective and getting more bottles of that. I'm not sure, maybe Andrew would know if this is the exact same parcel or bottling, or they've done multiple bottlings of the 28.
My knowledge, they've only ever done one. They just
Yeah.
they sell it over time. So
Yeah.
they don't release it all at once because they can't replace this. This is something that's when it's gone, it's gone. They'll never have it again.
Yeah. So from talking to Oliver Chilton a few years ago, I remember him talking about this when we had it for the first time, I believe, and this might have even been, it might have been close to pre-COVID or just afterwards. I can't remember when he was here for an elixir tasting, but we had a tasting lineup and we were talking about the Port Askaig 28, and he said, yeah, we elixir got a parcel of casks labeled single malt Isla, and it didn't have any distillery name or anything on it. Just said Isla single malt, blah blah blah. Gave vintages and so on and so forth. No idea what the provenance was. He's tasted it multiple times at that point, and we had tasted it, and we were chatting about what we thought it might be. Typically, everybody feels it's probably Caol Ila or Laphroaig. Oliver at the time was leaning towards Laphroaig just based on the profile of other Laphroaigs he's had of that age. I don't know if he would have changed his thoughts on that since, but there's definitely something Laphroaig-esque to it to me, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's just a damn good dram.
But it also meshes up with like some of the parcels of stock that other bottlers like
Yep.
Signatory, like the Whisky Agency, Whisky Sponge have all been bottling from 90 and 91 that is undisclosed, but people all believe is coming from Laphroaig. And the reasons for it are that, from my understanding of it, Ardbeg was producing at the time, but very little. So it's almost certainly not Ardbeg. Lagavulin was operating intermittently in this period too, so it's also unlikely it was Lagavulin. I mean, and then right away there you're left with Laphroaig and Caol Ila. Like, those are the only two reasonable options for it, but it just doesn't come across Caol Ila-esque. There's nothing really Caol Ila-esque about it.
So much for my guess of Port Ellen, but
yeah, a decade late.
That's right. Or 3 decades too early, one or the other.
A little of column A, a little of column B. It's great on the palate. I mean, Old Isla, it's rather soft. The peat is faint. It's really mellowed a lot with time. Either that or the COVID has, again, destroyed my palate. And
no, I think it's mellowed with time as well. And we do still have a 25-year-old of this. The 28 might be sold out, but I think we might see more in the future. There's a 45-year-old that's believed to be Bunnahabhain. The 25, I think they believe is Caol Ila, or it's been stated but not stated it's Caol Ila. But the 28-year-old, I've always enjoyed just a little bit more than the 25 personally. Maybe it's just part of the mystery that makes it more enticing. I don't know.
So, the funny thing about that is I think we do have access to more of the 28.
Yeah, I think we were asked about it a while back.
Because I don't think I don't think there's much, but I seem to remember that there might be, unless I'm wrong, there might be one more case of it to be had. Yeah, let's see here.
It's crazy. We've gone through. If you said 5 years ago, what do you have for Old Isla whiskey? They're beer next to nothing. And now we seem to be getting these parcels of mid-20s to early 30s stuff coming out every now and then, which is really fantastic.
So I've got good news. We have 6 more bottles available to us, so it is not sold out. Whether that'll be or not, I don't know. I think what happens with some of these cases is there's other retailers that say they want this stuff, and then maybe they pull some of it or not all of it, and then we mysteriously get offered more
Yep.
later on. And still grateful to have it. Any other thoughts on this Port Askaig 28 before we do we'll do a little speed round here?
Yeah, there's I'm getting a really good cross between like a really light ginger ale and lemonade on the palate right now.
I mean,
And there's still so much grain on the palate too.
yeah. So I think this would be if the Glen Geary, what were we talking about there? That it was like barrel aged cleaning. This is like your
Yeah.
barrel aged lemon pledge.
Yeah, there you go.
Aged long enough and oxidized long enough that those melons they're just going like kind of gooey and syrupy.
Well, you weren't sure if the pledge was doing its job, so you did drop just a little bit of dead all in there. Just a touch.
And, I did start with bleach because I've got COVID, right? Like that was, I believe, the former president.
Yeah, that's how Trump got
did
rid of
suggest
his.
we should start with bleach.
I don't believe that he expected you to drink it though. I think he was going through another orifice, if I remember correctly.
Like, as South Park would call it, tarot resto gestion or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
I believe so. There's something about Martha Stewart and a turkey. You can't unsee it once you've seen it. All right, back to the nose on 42.73 speed round. I mean, it's so light and so delicate now. It's fresh almost.
It is. It's and going so floral again. Like I'm still getting those lavender and violet notes.
This can't be Lecheg. Just can't.
I still think it is.
I mean, I might go so far as to say is I found a hard time believing it's Tobermory. It's that good.
It's I gotta get a shirt that says just because there's no tire fire doesn't mean it's not a Lecheg.
Yeah. I love it. All right, back to the Rhosdhu, the one. The nose is, I don't know if it's my nose, just seems kind of muted.
The fruit is kind of blown off, like maybe compared to the two peated that we've had. It's a little bit nutty.
I like it better now than I did the first time around. But I think that's still a long ways from actually being willing to buy the bottle. And
that's fair.
This might be the only one in this 4-5 that I would not say that for. I mean, if someone offered me a dram, I'd be happy to drink it. So
get back to Mr. Glen Geary.
I do find it's a little sharp or hot at the very end on it too.
It does have some heat to it for sure.
Which is odd because it's not strong. It's only 48.6. Yeah, back to the Glen Geary. One of the oldest distilleries in Scotland. 1798.
So much lychee on there right now for me.
Wow, it's gorgeous.
That's actually, I still stand by my falling apart feelings on this, but it stood up longer than I expected it would.
Yeah. I don't have anything else to say about that one. I mean, I do kind of, and I don't know if this is where my palate is today, given the circumstances, but I do want almost a bit more from it, but it's very, so.
Well, the Millstone, I think it fills a bit more with no problem.
Yeah. All right. I feel like I need a bit of water first.
Yeah, Jeff says on the Glen Geary, another year or so in the barrel, it would be just old vodka. I agree.
Was that for the Rhosdhu though, or for the Glen Geary? For number 3, he's saying for the
Agreed. Yeah, Rhosdhu's flavored old vodka.
This is just so stewed, so dark, so rich, almost too rich.
It still shocks me how lively it is though. Like it just There's whiskeys I've had where like the nose is great and it just like sits on your palate like and just doesn't do anything. Whereas this just is still moving around. It's still got life. It's just a fantastic dram.
Yeah, it's very pretty. It's balanced. It's very tasty. It's fresh. And sadly, Jeff, it is truly, truly gone. We brought in the last 4 cases of it this summer when we sold out of our initial allocation. Because apparently someone else didn't take all theirs, and that was the last of it. So
Yep.
there, I do know a guy though in Ontario who might, I don't know, maybe you could trade with him for something, but he cleaned us out of most of the last of it.
Yeah. Jeff, it's not exactly the same, but for some of those notes, I think you go for the boutique soup town. Andrew disagrees, but
I'm gonna say a firm no on that one. But you know what? We've been talking about putting that Millstone Craftworks Millstone 25-year into a lineup at some point. So
we should.
We almost put it in the Sherry Bombs tasting, but then we had an almost perfectly formed tasting of just Signatory and Edward Hour plus one Gordon MacPhail. It had something had to be cut. Maybe that'll be Sherry Bombs round 2. All right, back to the Port Askaig.
It's like you set fire to a brick of Weetabix.
And then like try to put it out by dumping Skittles on top of it.
Yeah, that's a good note. I like that.
Taste the smoldering rainbow.
That's right.
All right, Evan, do we bother with the poll? We've got a very, or if you've created it, I suppose you could share it anyway.
No, it's all good. I think we get people to just share their top 2. I think is the best way to go. Why don't you go first, man, this time around?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, tough call. You know what? And I'm gonna be selfish. I'm gonna pick 3, as is my way. I think I am gonna go Port Askaig 28-year. I really like that boutique Millstone, but to me, it's just as good as it is. It's a little too like goopy. I'm gonna go Whiskey Sponge, Glen, and then Quiet Confidence, Scotch Malt Whiskey Society. 1, 2, 3. Those are my 3.
Cool. I will take the boutique Millstone for my favorite. That was just because I hadn't tasted before. It was so out of left field for me. And just shockingly well put together. Even though I tried Millstones of that age before. And then my number 2, I think I will go with the SMWS, maybe Askaig, the Quiet Confidence.
And what about if you had a number 3?
Port Askaig, 28. Just that brings back good memories, even though it's only been a couple of years that I've been tasting it.
Okay, very good, very good. All right, so Robin's got 5 and 4, so he's going Port Askaig and Boutique Millstone. Jeff is
all choices
in that order, going Boutique Millstone and then Port Askaig. We've not heard from Frederica. Maybe she's still deciding. Incidentally, Evan, because it's in my office and I've not been at work in several days, there is a box of Rogers chocolates in there you should share with the staff. I've already taken one. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, we've been busily eating the shortbread that was given to you. So we've been working on that. We'll get to the chocolate.
The shortbread.
Yeah.
Well, I know that Judy dropped off fudge, which is in a tin in there, but someone dropped off like fresh shortbread.
No, the not fresh, but almost as good because it's the big tin of Kirkland shortbread. That's actually really good stuff. Well, and you know who did it, which we should probably do something for them is the company that runs the warehouse where we're at.
Oh, Oh, you mean, the German guy who owns the building.
Yeah.
The
And dropped it off in person too.
Yeah, just make sure I get a couple bits of shortbread, like maybe send them home with
Well,
whatever.
all I can say is you better be healthy by Saturday, man, because that stuff doesn't last.
No promises. Frederica is saying Millstone, Glen, Port Askaig. So there you go. We
Very
got a bunch
cool.
of different answers, a lot of different feelings all over the little map there. So that's very good. I am gonna apologize. Especially since it's a small group tonight, I'd be happy to stick around and chat for a little bit, but I had to have a nap to get to this point today due to the COVID. So I'm gonna bow out in the hopes that I'm 100% Thursday, Friday, and Saturday this week because we've got stuff on the go. But
Yeah, I gotta run too. I gotta get back to blog posting.
yeah.
So
But I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully we can drag a few more people out to the one on Sunday. But
yeah,
hope
absolutely.
you enjoyed the range. Hope you're enjoying the Uber calendar. And yeah, talk again on Sunday.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Have a
Have
good
a good
night.
night.